Welcome to ESRAG Weekly Project Seminar Special Presentation, Rotary at COP28 with Judith Diment. To hear live interpretation, press Interpretation or press More than Interpretation. A menu will open. Choose Spanish or Portuguese.
Para escuchar la traducción simultáneamente, presione el botón Interpretation o presione Más interpretación. Ahí se abrirá un menú y podrás elegir tu idioma preferido, español o portugués.
Para ouvir a tradução simultânea, pressione o botão Interpretação ou pressione Mais interpretação. Lá será aberto um menu e você poderá escolher o idioma de sua preferência, espanhol ou português.
ESRAG also provides captioning in many other languages. Press More than Captions. Choose your favorite language. When people speak in English, you can read your favorite language at the bottom of the screen. Please welcome each other by entering your name, country, and any other special messages in the chat. Please use the Q&A box to enter your questions. Watch your email for a link to the recording. ESRAG Chair Dr. Yashar Adachek will host our presenter Judith Diment. We will also be joined by Rotary International President nominee Mario Cesar Martin and many Rotarians and Rotaractors who participated in COP28.
Dear guests, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to our special ESRAG webinar on COP28. I would like to welcome Judith Diment and President nominee Mario Cesar Martin and all our guests. For the first time, Rotary had a pavilion and a full leadership team at a COP28 at a COP meeting. Today, the leader of the Rotary delegation, Judith Diment, will tell us about this great event. So let me introduce you the speaker, Judith Diment. Judith Diment is the Dean of Rotary Representative to the United Nations and international agencies, leading a team of 30 Rotary ambassadors, and is Rotary representative to the Commonwealth. Judith has led a delegation to COP26, COP27, and COP28. Judith has worked on advocacy for polio eradication for more than 20 years and is vice chair of International Polio Plus Committee, which recommends grants to WHO and UNICEF up to $150 million annually. And she is the coordinator of Rotary Polio Eradication Task Force and United Kingdom National Advocacy Advisor. She represented Rotary at World Health Organization Assembly and WHO Executive Board meetings since 2013. And Commonwealth Heads of Government meetings since 2015. She was awarded a Member of the Order of the British Empire by Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth for services to charity, and an honorary fellowship of Aberystwyth University in 2019, and was inducted as a Freeman of City of London in 2023. Judith received the Rotary Service Above Self Award in 2016. So please welcome Ms. Diment. Judith, the floor is yours.
Thank you, ESRAG. Greetings from London. Thank you so much for the invitation to speak at this meeting. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said, "The era of global warming has ended, and we now face the era of global boiling and climate chaos. Climate change impacts our rights to life, housing, health, water, and sanitation. Climate change is threatening the life and safety of billions of people and threatens global food production, including agriculture, transport, and infrastructure. And that is why we're here today. Rotary International recognized this crisis in 2020 when they introduced the environment as Rotary's 7th area of focus. And this has led to Rotary's involvement with the UN COP conferences. but I'd like to spend a few minutes just highlighting the relationship of Rotary with the UN. Many of you may know that Rotary and the United Nations share a history of working together towards world understanding and peace. In 1945, 49 Rotarians helped draft the UN Charter in San Francisco, and Rotary has had observer status since the formation of the UN in 1947. 5 Rotarians have served as presidents of the UN General Assembly. And with the development of the Polio Plus program in the mid-1980s, working with its UN partners WHO and UNICEF, Rotary strengthened its liaison with the UN system and recognized the importance of this partnership. In 1991, the RI board approved a focus on the UN and international organizations, and hence the Rotary representative to the UN and international agencies was born. And today, we have 31 representatives at 22 agencies in 12 capital cities. With top consultative status and experienced volunteer Rotary representatives at all of these agencies, Rotary remains one of the most respected non-governmental organizations in the UN system. Over the years, Rotary representatives have organized many Rotary events at these UN agencies, utilizing our contacts and professional skills. With Rotary introducing an area of focus on the environment, we naturally turned our attention to the COP conferences. And as Dean of the Rotary representatives to the UN, I've been privileged to lead Rotary delegations to COP26 in Glasgow, COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh, and COP28 in Dubai. So what is a COP? Well, COP stands for Conference of the Parties, and is the biggest UN annual event. Next slide, please. COP28 was organized by the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, UNFCCC, and hosted by the UAE government in Expo City. The 4 pillars set by the COP28 presidency are fast-tracking a just, orderly, and equitable energy transition, fixing climate finance, focusing on people, lives, and livelihoods, and underpinning everything with full inclusivity. Next slide, please. The key objectives of COP28 are threefold: sustainable energy, climate resilience, and biodiversity safeguarding. COP28 was attended by 154 heads of government and country delegations and 1,600 international government organizations and non-governmental organizations. Some 85,000 participants attended COP28, including member states of the UNFCCC, business leaders, young people, climate scientists, indigenous peoples, journalists, and various other experts and stakeholders were among the participants to share ideas and solutions and build partnerships and coalitions. COP is where the world comes together to agree on ways to address the climate crisis, such as limiting global temperature rise to 1.5 degrees Celsius, helping vulnerable communities adapt to the effects of climate change, and achieving net zero emissions by 2050. The conference was organized in a blue zone and a green zone. The blue zone held the government's plenary sessions, the delegations' pavilions, and individual government and NGO pavilions, and it was open to registered delegates and organizations like Rotary with observer status only. The green zone was open to the public and included exhibitors from businesses and NGOs. Next slide, please. COPs, of course, are all about negotiations, and there were 3 important outcomes. Nearly every country agreed to transition away from fossil fuels. After 13 days of intense negotiations, COP28 concluded on the 13th of December, with every party at COP28 representing almost 200 countries, with a breakthrough agreement that signals the beginning of the end of the fossil fuel era, by laying the ground for a swift, just, and equitable transition underpinned by deep emission cuts and scaled up finance. Secondly, the global stocktake. The first global stocktake of how countries can accelerate action to meet the goals of the landmark Paris Agreement was conducted. In a demonstration of global solidarity, negotiators from nearly 200 parties came together in Dubai with a decision on the world's first global stocktake to ratchet up climate action before the end of the decade, with the overarching aim to keep the global temperature limit of 1.5 degrees Celsius within reach. And of course, there was a huge number, and COP28 brought a wave of new international pledges, covering everything from oil and gas, company emissions, and tripling renewables, through to food systems and how the world can better integrate action on climate change and biodiversity loss. Next slide, please. So the achievements, I think, are threefold. Global leaders reached landmark agreements on carbon emissions reduction and the looking towards the Sustainable Development Goals. Many collaborative initiatives were formed to accelerate the transition of a low-carbon global economy. And there were significant commitments to scaling up investments in renewable energy sources. Next slide, please. As mentioned, the conference was organized in a blue zone and a green zone, and Rotary was allocated a pavilion in the blue zone for the first time. The Rotary COP28 delegation was comprised of President Gordon McInally, Chair of Rotary Foundation Barry Racine, General Secretary John Huco, Dr. Chris Puttock, Chair of the Rotary Action Groups Council, and Mohammed Delawar, Rotary representative to the Arab League, and myself. 13 other Rotarians attended in their capacity as program leaders, moderators, or speakers at breakout sessions. 20 Rotaractors attended, including 8 members of Rotaract in Dubai, and 12 selected from Rotaract clubs around the world, representing every continent. For the past 118 years, Rotary International has been at the forefront of humanitarian efforts. Rotary's engagement at COP28 is a testament to our ongoing commitment to address the critical intersection of
Sight and Sound Theaters in Branson, Missouri.
Everyone has to start.
humanitarian actions and environmental sustainability. Through robust collaborations, educational initiatives, youth engagement, networking, digital outreach, and feedback mechanisms, Rotary International and its partners aim to foster a culture of sustainable solutions and responsible stewardship of the planet. This engagement will serve as a platform for showcasing ongoing efforts and a catalyst for future innovations and collaborations that will drive society towards a sustainable and equitable future. Next slide, please. So Rotary aimed to highlight humanitarian and environmental goals in reaction to and preemption of the world's threefold crises: biodiversity, pollution, and climate, and also the 17 United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, reflected, of course, by Rotary's 7 areas of focus. Our partners at COP28 included the Global CSR Foundation, the Global Alliance for Vaccines, the Institute of Electronics and Electrical Engineers, the Institution of Engineering and Technology, Sand Dams Worldwide, the Global Biodiversity Alliance, Rotarians, Rotary clubs and districts, who all funded the pavilion. Barry Racine, John Huco, and I attended the Reaching the Last Mile conference on the Health Day, and this raised $777 million for global health and $100 million for polio eradication in Pakistan. Next slide, please. So what did we achieve? Well, I think we enabled high-level engagement of Rotary senior leaders, strengthened relationships with delegates from the UN and UN agencies and other international agencies, especially those with Rotary representatives. We created opportunities for action by developing environment service projects with partners. We gave young people a voice. And of course, we provided Rotary and Rotaract in the UAE a platform to create awareness of all the good work that they do. Next slide, please. For the first time at a COP, the UNFCCC designated 8 thematic days focused on the SDGs, including the following topics: health, relief, recovery, peace, finance, trade, gender equality, energy and industry, just transition, indigenous people, urbanization and the built environment, transport, youth, children education and skills, nature, land use, oceans, food, agriculture and water. And this reflects that climate change impacts every aspect of society and the importance of reaching the SDGs by 2030. And of course, these thematic days match what Rotary International does through the service of its clubs, districts, and indeed globally through the 7 focus areas and our Rotary action groups. Next slide, please. I'm now going to say a little bit about the breakout sessions, and I'd like to take this opportunity of thanking Dr. Chris Putter, who managed the programming for the 28 breakout sessions. And that was no mean feat. It was a very complex operation. We presented 30 breakout sessions on all 8 thematic days, 22 breakout sessions in the Rotary Pavilion, 1 in a larger presentation arena in the blue zone, and 2 in the Slovenia Pavilion in the green zone. All sessions were recorded and will be available online. In addition, Rotaractors ran 5 sessions in the green zone. These sessions included over 100 world-class speakers from many organizations without previous contact with Rotary. Most of these speakers were secured using the contacts of the Representatives Network, and other speakers came from experts within 4 Rotary action groups: ESRAG, WASH, Peace and Health. And many of the speakers who were not Rotarians were very inspired of what they saw of Rotary at COP28, and many expressed an interest in working with Rotary, including the head of Climate and Health, Diarmaid Lendron Campbell from WHO. He had a session with President Gordon McInally talking about climate and health. And at the end of it, he said he would like to explore a partnership with Rotary on climate and health. The Institute of Electronics and Technology, which was one of our sponsors, has 140,000 members globally with an average age of 45. And they do a lot of work very similar to what Rotary is doing. They're very keen to meet with us to discuss how we might be able to work together. And I'm planning a meeting at their London office shortly. Following on from COP28, I attended the Royal Botanic Gardens Kew Roadmap to SDGs by 2030. The meeting was last month. The Royal Botanic Gardens Kew were one of our partners and speakers. And following from this meeting, I'm now discussing a possible collaboration with the Zoological Society, Seagrass Restoration Project in the Thames. And just this morning, I met the Blue Marine Foundation, who we met for the first time at COP. They have their head office in London. They're a very interesting foundation and think tank doing a huge amount of work globally in the oceans. And they're very interested in seeing synergy and working in the future with Rotary. Next slide, please. So our focus was on UN and international agencies, governments, NGOs, academia and corporations, building on the engagement of Rotary representatives and contacts made at the previous COP conferences in 2021 and 2022. At COP28, we strengthened relations with delegates from UN agencies. Many of them provided us with speakers, including the UNFCCC, the UN Environment Programme, UNICEF, UNESCO, Food and Agriculture Organization, the UN Development Programme, the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, WHO, the UN Office for Partnerships, the Global Alliance for Vaccines, the Commonwealth Secretariat, and various Commonwealth accredited organizations and the World Wildlife Fund, we engaged with more than 300 individuals in the pavilion, including many Rotarians attending COP28 professionally with their organisations and companies. And of course, they were all delighted to see that Rotary had a pavilion. Many of the other delegates expressed an interest in joining a Rotary club, so there was definitely a membership benefit of us being at COP28. Some of the highlights for me included the signing of a memorandum of understanding hosted by Barry Racine of the Mississippi River Authorities and the Ganges River Authorities. And this came about through a connection with Rotarian Salvador Rico, who was part of our delegation. He's been attending the yearly Mississippi River Cities and Towns Initiative meeting since 2019, which has allowed him to learn and observe the organization and all the opportunities it offers to Rotary, locally and worldwide. The MOU is part of a significant initiative that involves other organizations to be part of the Global River Cities Alliance. At COP28, the Lord Mayor of London, Michael Manelli, spoke at the Rotary session on energy finance, and we're now considering including London and the River Thames in this River Alliance initiative, as we're working as well with the Lord Mayor on a new project to plant seagrasses and restore the habitats in the Thames estuary. The National Mission for Clean Ganga Director, Ashok Kumar, will continue the conversation for future cooperation. Rotary is already working in many WASH projects with the National Mission for Clean Ganga in India, and there are plans to have an MOU between all those parties in the River Cities Alliance and the Amazon watershed for COP30, and we hope to get Rotary International to be part of that MOU in COP30 in Brazil. Another highlight was the UNESCO session on greening education launch. Through the work of Rotary representative to UNESCO, Cyril Norton, Rotary was accepted into the UNESCO Global Education Coalition in November. Rotary was invited to the greening education launch at COP28, and I attended with Rotary actor Cinderella Nadlovu, who I'm delighted to see is on the call today. We also attended a Commonwealth intergenerational dialogue with Secretary General Baroness Scotland held on Youth Day. At this event, they launched the Commonwealth Youth Climate Report. They also launched the Commonwealth Youth Oceans Group, which Rotary actors can join. I also had a bilateral meeting with Manuel Barange, Deputy Director of the Food and Agricultural Organization. We discussed ways that Rotary clubs can engage with FAO in countries, and he advised of a pilot program in the Caribbean to provide a bank of fishing boats, which will be distributed during hurricane and cyclone damage. The fishing boats are a new design which can withstand hurricanes. He's interested in working with Rotary, and I've connected him to Guido Franchetti, our Rotary representative to FAO in Rome. General Luca Baioni from the Italian military in Rome attended our session on education and skills and was very keen to work with Rotary. I've also connected him with Guido Franchetti. They've already had several meetings and are now working on a joint program of climate education in schools in Italy. Next slide, please. I attended a side event on nature-based solutions at the UK Pavilion. The keynote address was given by the Right Honourable Stephen Barclay, Secretary of the State Department for Environment, Food and Agriculture. Various mangrove projects were highlighted and an announcement on additional funding for mangroves through the UK Blue Planet Fund, working with the United Nations Environment Programme. The Global Mangrove Alliance made significant progress at COP28 towards securing the Mangrove Breakthroughs goal of 15 million hectares of mangroves, underpinned by $4 billion of new investments by 2030. Rotary, of course, is supporting this effort through a mangroves initiative launched at COP26. Between the 2 weeks at COP28, you have a free day when there's nothing going on. And on the free day, a group of us went out to Al Zora and we planted mangroves in a restoration program being led by Rotarian George Sard. Next slide, please. Of course, events like COPs are all about networking, building up contacts so you can create partnerships. And we had two excellent networking events. Firstly, a very high-level Rotary reception. We hosted 80 people, including ministers, sponsors, delegates, Rotarians and Rotaractors. And the bottom picture here is the Italian Minister for the Environment speaking with John Hugo. And he is actually also a Rotarian, which is very good to see. The next slide, please. The United Arab Emirates Rotary Association generously hosted a gala dinner in honor of President Gordon McInally, attended by more than 330 delegates, with guest of honor UAE Minister Dr. Mariam Mattar, seen in the picture with Gordon and myself. And I mentioned the membership benefit earlier. The bottom picture here is Rotary's representative to UNICEF in New York, Rose Cardarelli, and I introduced her to Ghanaian Ohenibra Otcherry. He's a royal ambassador to the King of Ashanti. And I met him several times and I invited him to the gala dinner. He was very inspired to learn about Rotary and really wanted to join us. And because he travels the world all the time, I suggested an online club. And Rose belongs to the Washington, D.C. Online club. And so I introduced him to Rose, and I'm very optimistic that Ohenibra will join Rotary. Next slide, please. Another one of the highlights for me, I love supporting youth and mentoring young people. And participation of Rotaract at COP28 was a crucial element in the planning process. The objective was to bring international Rotaractors from various environmental backgrounds to Dubai. 12 outstanding Rotaractors were selected from 6 continents, showcasing the global reach of Rotary and its diversity. A team of local Rotaractors in Dubai was formed to coordinate and facilitate this process and lead their program. These participants advocated for pressing topics, shared best practices, and networked to facilitate the development of projects. They had an excellent 2-week program and were great ambassadors for Rotary. And this whole process of the Rotaract program was overseen by Dr. Chris Putter, who did a brilliant job. And just as an anecdote to that, 2 of the Rotaractors who were selected to come to COP28 are from the UK. And they're taking part in a Rotaract event I'm organising in March when President Gordon is in London. We're doing a session on climate and health, which is a Rotaract session involving Rotaractors throughout the UK. Next slide, please. Of course, COP28 presented an opportunity for media coverage, and we generated a lot of coverage, especially on social media. I'd also like to mention now that a full report on our attendance at COP28 is available, and recordings of our sessions will be online shortly. Next slide, please. I'm very proud of what we achieved at COP28, despite many challenges along the way. And I think it demonstrates the powerful combination of the Rotary representatives with their high-level contacts, working closely with experts in the Rotary action groups and technical cadre. And we strongly recommend that Rotary is represented at COP29 in Baku, Azerbaijan in November, and at COP30 in Brazil in 2025. Next slide, please. So I would like to thank everyone who made COP28 possible. We had a really great team, and it was a great example of teamwork. And I'd like to conclude in the words of the president of COP28, Sultan Ahmed Al-Jaber. We united, we acted, we delivered. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Digit, for this wonderful and informative presentation. Before going to questions, we will go to President nominee Mario, and I will invite Alberto Palombo, who is ESRAG's Brazil Regional Chapter Chair, to introduce Mario Cesar. Alberto, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Good morning here from Brasilia, from the heart of Brazil. My name is Alberto Palombo. I'm charter member of the Rotary Club of Brazil International in District 4530, and currently I'm serving as technical coordinator of the cadre of technical advisors for the Rotary Foundation. And as the Cesar said, I'm also serving as Brazil chapter chair of ESRAG. Well, my dear fellows and friends, it is my great privilege to introduce our Rotary International President 2526, Mario Cesar Martins de Camargo, who honor us with his time today to comment on Dean Judith Demant's presentation about Rotary's participation of the COP28 in this in such an important global process for the environment, sustainability, and adaptation to climate change. With a remarkable career that spans from various sectors, Mario has distinguished himself as a visionary leader and in both business and also in Rotary. A proud member of the Santo Andrea Rotary Club in Sao Paulo, a beautiful club which I have visited at his invitation. And his journey through Rotary has been marked by significant contributions, serving as a Rotary International Board Director from 2019 to 21. He was our director of the pandemic, as he describes himself. And he was also trustee of the Rotary Foundation before that. Mario's extensive background includes a blend of education and professional experience that spans the globe itself. And he graduated from high school in Minnesota. He is a man from the ranks in Rotary because he started his Rotary life in the exchange program. And our interpreters, by the way, are also Rotex alumni. So they are very happy here to be helping Judith and Mario in this session. So he held leadership positions in the graphic industry here in Brazil, and his leadership extended from president of the Brazilian Association of Graphic Industries. He was, of course, involved in all the ranks here in our zones in the district. He fluently speaks many languages, and he has visited over 46 countries. He brings a global perspective to the endeavors, his endeavors that we hope are the endeavors of many Rotarians. His vision of Rotary emphasizes on sustainable membership growth, increasing partnerships, enhancing diversity, improving governance, bringing innovation, and boosting Rotary's public image in the world. Through his leadership, Mario aims to navigate Rotaries towards the impactful community service and greater global influence. Husband of our dear Rotarian fellow Denise and father of Andrés Cesar, let's listen to Mario today as let's embrace his insights of creating a more inclusive, dynamic, and impactful Rotary, especially in what refers to the environment, our newest area of focus. And of course, in paving the way for future global climate decisions-making processes like the COP30 that will be held in 2025, as Judith mentioned, during his year as president of Rotary International. So please join me in warmly welcoming Mario Cesar Martins de Camargo. Mario, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, my dear friends. Actually, 174 friends around the Rotary world that are listening to me today. I see a lot of friendly faces on the screen. That's one of the magics of Zoom. I have to tell you that I am on the beach now, so for a 3-day vacation, so you can envy me. Beautiful weather. I'll soon be flying back to Chicago, Siberian type of climate, but you know, that's what Rotary gets from us. Rotary gets the best of us. Thank you, Judith, for your presentation. Thanks, Alberto, for my introduction. Thanks for the invitation. It's always a pleasure to talk to Rotarians, members of my Rotary family. Some of you know me quite well. You know, I'm very pragmatic and objective. So I'll cut to the chase. Why am I committed to environment? And I'll give you 4 reasons why I support participation of Rotary in COPs. I supported COP28, although I was not a president nominee at the time the decision was made. But I do support COP29, and especially COP30, which will take place in my home country in the middle of the Amazon, Belém, Pará, Brazil. The first reason is I'm an old Rotarian. I joined Rotary in 1980, coming from the ranks of the youth exchange program, like Alberto mentioned. I'm the first ever Rotary International president who comes from the ranks of the youth exchange program. So I had the chance to meet the past president, the last Brazilian president that presided Rotary International, Paulo Costa, back in 1990, 1991. Remember, 1991 was 1 year before ECO 92, which took place in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, when, you know, the environmental issues were brought to the table on the main stage of global concerns. In 1990, 1991, Paulo had a program called Preserve Planet Earth, which was visionary. We imagine people talking about preservation of our planet 30 plus years ago. He was a visionary. Unfortunately, Rotary did not capture this global flag from the very first moment, and it slowly vanished from our agenda for 3 decades. It went back to the main stage recently with our participation in COP and with our decision to engage the 7th area of focus with TRF, which brings me to point number 2. First one, then history. Second is, I was a trustee when the 7th area of focus in Rotary was adopted. And I was a strong supporter, and I have been, and I will continue to be a strong supporter of environmental concerns in our agenda. Why? Because it's a modern agenda. Without reducing the importance of other concerns for eradication of polio, which is undoubtedly our #1 priority, we do have to bring Rotary to a modern agenda, and environment fits in that concept. So as a trustee, I was a steady, robust supporter of our participation and engagement with the Rotary Foundation, making it the 7th area of focus in our Rotary Foundation. A third, to walk the talk, last year I was invited by President Shekhar Mehta to, actually 2 years ago, I was invited by President Shekhar Mehta to organize a presidential celebration in an area of my choosing, and I chose water and environment. And I counted then with the tremendous support from Judith, from Alberto, from Chris, and a bunch of well-intended and hard-working Rotarians around the world that focus on water and environmental issues. So as a director then, or as a past director, we brought this item, the environmental agenda, to the Brazilian Rotarians. As a paradox, Brazil is on the center stage of environmental concerns around the world, but Rotarians in Brazil were not that engaged. So we had the pioneers of bringing, you know, water and sanitation and environmental concerns to the Rotary agenda in South America. And the fourth, last but not least reason is partnerships is one of my 3-pronged approach to increasing membership. Innovation is the first one. Continuity is the second one, and establishing strong partnerships is the third one. Why do I believe in partnerships? Because as a trustee, I learned from our success story with polio. We are the movers and shakers of polio, but without any question, if we didn't have the type of partnerships that we have with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the Gavin Alliance, the CDC, the WHO, the UNICEF, we wouldn't be there. We wouldn't be on the cusp, on the brink of eradicating polio around the world. We raised more than 2.5 billion US dollars in contributions to the cause, but we also lobbied for another $18 billion outside of our world with governments, with private companies, with associations devoted to the cause of health. So we are good in raising money, but we are much better in advocating for our causes. So that taught me that partnership is a key element in promoting Rotary in our programs, in our money for fundraising, but also in our membership. Moving to the second point, what do I suggest you do? I'm very pragmatic. First, Judith and the environmental team, you have to bring this report to the board of directors of Rotary International. The board is the top executive committee that decides on what Rotary should or should not do. So my advice is bring this report to the committee, to the environmental committees on both boards, and the board of directors and the board of trustees of the Rotary Foundation, because this program, this project has impact on both sides of our organization, RI and TRF. So I urge you to do that and pick one or two directors. In the case of England, for instance, pick Eve Conway, who must be your friend, to present that to the board, and pick another 3 or 4 directors that will support the idea of participating in the next COP. My second point is, it's not in the minutes of the last board meeting that happened a month ago in Orlando, Florida. It was just in the side comments, but the initial reaction to our further participation was not positive, was negative. So I'm giving you an alert that you can count on me for that. We have to engage into lobbying for the position of Rotary supporting the board of directors, supporting our participation in future COPs. And I know how hard you guys struggled to raise money. And I know that some of the staff were opposed to that participation. And I'm talking to an audience that, I think of qualified Rotarians engaged in the cause. And you should know that the first reaction was not of support to our participation. So we have to do some lobbying, some convincing, some evangelizing. The cause is worthwhile, and I support you whenever I can. I don't have a vote. I'm not a president-elect. I'm just the president nominee, but I have a voice. So I can help you with the defense of that program moving forward. And to your knowledge, if you read the minutes of the last board meeting, Rotary International endorsed our participation, and I'll be one of the keynote speakers at Expo 2025 in Japan. So that means that we are engaged into some public exposition, some public exposure. We have to expose ourselves to the public. I'm tired of seeing us preaching to the choir. We have to preach outside of the Rotary territory, Rotary boundaries, because that's where the future Rotarians are. That's where the future contributions and donations and investments in our Rotary Foundation are. We cannot forever depend on Rotary's pockets, Rotarians' pockets, to raise money for our foundation or to make ends meet. So, just to let you know that it is within our purview. I don't see if we are supporting our participation, including some budgetary commitment to Expo 2025 in Japan, why we shouldn't also work towards that direction in Expo 29 and Expo 30 in Brazil. I would be very disappointed, and you can understand perfectly why, if Rotary were to be absent from COP30 in Belém in my own country during my year as president. I think it would send the wrong message to local Rotarians, to South American Rotarians, and Rotarians like yourselves around the globe. I deeply trust our partners. The United Nations, as Judith rightfully pointed out, has been our partner for ages, since its inception back in 1945. And I think we must support and partner and strengthen our relationship with UN. And our COP participation is a key item in that purpose. So thank you all for having the patience to listen to me. Thanks, Judith. Thanks, Alberto. Thanks, Yasser, for the invitation. I'm available. I'm at your disposal always. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mario. This enlightening and informative presentation. Thank you. And now we will go to Q&A. As Judith said, at the COP28, there were several Rotaracts, and we have some of them present here. So we will take a few questions from them initially. And the first one is coming from Abdul Rashid. Abdul Rashid, you have 60 seconds. Please go ahead and ask your question.
Okay, thank you very much. Due to what's the name? I'm having problem with my Wi-Fi here, so I had to move out of my office to join the meeting because of low internet issues here. So thank you very much for this wonderful opportunity and these wonderful presentations that has been done. So my question here is on the aspect of, let's say, Rotaractors' involvement. Hello, can you hear me, please? My question is on the aspect of microplastics and that of how will the Rotary International and ESRAG be able to work in the areas of improving microplastics and that of water issues, especially microplastics and water pollution issues.
Okay.
And I will be very happy if Rotary International could also look into this very issue, because that is a very big problem we are currently facing in the part of the country I live, Ghana. Thank you.
Judith, are you going to take it?
Thank you for that question, that really important question. One of the sessions that we had at COP28 showed the terrible pollution in the rivers in Guatemala. And I know that's just as plastic pollution. I mean, it was just like a river of plastic. It was horrendous. And it's a really crucial area that we need to be working in. I'm aware that already there are Rotary groups working on plastic. And one of the ones that I've come across is End Plastic Soon, which started in the Netherlands. And I know that in the UK, we've got people working on that as well. And I'm sure in other areas around the world, but it's certainly an area that ESRAG needs to expand its work on, I would say. And of course, we must work with Rotaractors. I think we must get the changes in at Rotary International with Rotaractors being able to get global grants. Going forward, we need much more collaboration between Rotaract clubs and Rotary clubs. working together on these important issues.
Okay, thank you very much. Next question is from Anika.
Thank you, Mr. Yasser. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone, whichever part of the world you are in at the moment. First of all, thank you to the ESRAG team for giving us this opportunity to speak today. And it is wonderful to see everyone after COP28 in one screen. So my quick question to Rotary and Judith is, as we know, when past President Barry Raisin took office as the Rotary International President, he embraced the UN's 17 SDG goals and how Rotary can work alongside with it. So taking a step further, Rotary also added a new focus area in protecting the environment. So this is the third time you have led a delegation at COP with all these multiple ideas. We also know that certain districts, zones have their action plans, which is primarily connected to the environment. Just like what we have achieved through the Polio Plus program. To sum up, so my question to you is, in your opinion, how would you envision all these ideas and initiatives coming under one common umbrella, just like Polio Plus, and how young Rotarians like us can play a part going forward?
Thank you for that question. I think maybe Mary might be better placed to answer it than me, but I'll make a few comments. I think what you're suggesting is an advocacy role for Rotary International across the whole of the environment world. And currently, advocacy to governments is focused very much on the polio program. And I think until we finish the polio program and have polio eradicated, it's unlikely that Rotary as an organization can take on advocacy for an area like the environment. But there is a lot that individual Rotaract clubs, Rotaractors, Rotarians, all of us can do in promoting and advocating on the environment. And I think the environment is quite a new area of focus. And a lot of clubs are sort of getting to grips with how they can actually work on the environment. And I think we just need to strengthen through the Rotary Action Group for the environment, strengthen all the activities, bring together Rotaractors and Rotarians working in partnership, but also working in partnership with other organizations. I mentioned this morning, I met with the Blue Marine Foundation. They're doing amazing work around the world, and they're concerned about plastics in the oceans. And there is a lot that Rotary can be doing with regard to these environmental issues.
Thank you, Rotary.
Yes, sir. To Judith's point, yes, we do have a total concentration of our efforts today in the polio eradication program. I don't think that with our current mindset, let me put it that way, with our current mindset, every time we bring a new item on the table, people will say, well, we cannot divert from polio. And really, if you think me candidly, I would say, we are squandering resources. Because yes, we do have the manpower and the woman power to carry on more than one project. In my mindset, sometimes it's the easy excuse out of the problem. And I'm pressing, and Judith knows that I can pressure people. I'm pressing to change our mindset. I mean, polio is almost done. We have the commitment, we have the budget, we have the financial resources already committed moving forward. This year we had 0 cases. Last year we had 12 cases, 6 and 6, Afghanistan and Pakistan. So I think it is time that we consider at least initiating some thoughts in other areas of interest for the humankind. I have seen this, we must focus on polio. And okay, we are really close. I think it's time that we should consider some other programs also. Not that we're going to embark them as deeply and as long as we committed to polio. I don't think we are going that way so soon. You know, there's probably not one single program that will replace polio entirely. Maybe we will diversify. Maybe we will initiate different, less committed approaches, people-wise, you know, in terms of human resources and financial resources. But I'm fighting against this laid-back attitude of, oh no, we're already engaged with polio. As long as you don't finish it, we can't do anything else. I think we should move on, opening up opportunities and opening up our mind to other problems of the globe, which are also pressing. Just a comment.
Yeah, Mario, thank
you
you.
Have a glimpse. So you have a glimpse of the president nominee's mind.
Yeah. Can I add something to what you are saying? I am getting news from United Nations bodies. For example, some of them, both WHO and UNICEF, because their work on polio is reduced, they have allocated some of these people to other work. So they are also changing their work. Okay, thank you very much. Our next question from Rotaract is from Elliot.
Thank you, and thank you for this opportunity
Yes.
and for mentorship that you've provided. My question was linking to your point earlier, Judith, about mentorship, and it was incredible to see as a real presence from young people at this COP, particularly from the Young Envirotech exhibitors that we saw. But what can we do as Rotary and Rotaract to ensure that we don't lose momentum next year in empowering other young voices? And how do we support young innovators with their ideas for change?
Thank you, Elliot. That's a very interesting question. As I said, I've always tried to mentor and support young people. And it was a great pleasure meeting you and all the other Rotaract colleagues in Dubai. And I would hope moving, if we're just talking about the environment and COP29, I would hope that we will be able to advocate that Rotary has a presence at COP29 and that Rotaractors play an important part in it. And I would also hope that the teams that we got together, the Rotaract team in Dubai and the 12 of you in other parts of the world, that you can take this forward as well with your Rotary clubs and districts. And I mentioned that I was organising a Rotaract event when President Gordon's in London in March. Well, Elliot is one of the Rotaractors coming and speaking on climate and health. And it's these sort of activities, is keeping you engaged, keeping you in the loop, and keeping up the momentum. I think it's really, really important. We don't want to lose touch. We must all keep together, work together.
Okay, thank you very much. Now our next question is coming from Eva. Eva Eklu.
Eva isn't available.
Okay, then we go to Cinderella. Cinderella Nedlowe. Cinderella, please have your question.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for giving us this opportunity as Rotaractors to participate at COP. My question is, having attended some of the side events with Judith in the Blue Zone, I just want to find out how we can cascade all the great relationships that we cultivated from COP and cascade them down to our countries or to our zones. For example, the Green Education Initiative, how can we take all the great milestones that we made at COP and cascade them to our districts, to our countries, to ensure that we are not just talking about these initiatives at high levels such as COP, but we are also making progress on the ground with our countries in our respective clubs. Thank you.
Thank you, Cinderella, and it's a delight to see you again. I really enjoyed meeting you in Dubai. Yes, so for example, the Greening Education Initiative, that's a UNESCO initiative. And our Rotary representative to UNESCO is in Paris, Cyril Noting. And but UNESCO have offices all around the world. And I'm not sure if there is one in Zimbabwe, but I can certainly, I can find out. I'm seeing Cyril actually on Friday because we have a big presidential peace conference in London this weekend. And I can check to see if there is a UNESCO office in Zimbabwe. And then you can work with them, looking at greening education in your country. Many of these UN agencies have local regionalized offices. I know UNICEF do, WHO do, UNESCO do. And so there are opportunities to work in countries with these regional country offices.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we had all the questions from the Rotaracts, and our time is coming to close. I think I will have one or two more questions. So the next question is from the chat, and that is that's a question to Mario Cesar, and the question is, what do we need? This is coming from Salvador Rico. What do we need to make sure we have a permanent presence at COP29, 30, and future COPs?
Salvador, like I said, it must be a decision from the board. The board is the highest collegiate of decision-making in the Rotary world. Not many people, 17 directors, the president-elect, the current president, 19 people. Those are the people who have to make this decision to adopt our participation on a permanent basis or on an intermittent basis, depending on each case. It's always a board decision. So those are the people to be influenced. Talk to your governor, talk to your director, and make sure that this is an area of relevance, of importance to your district, to your zone. And they are the ones who represent you before Rotary International. After all, they are the people who vote to adopt a resolution or not. The current decision-making process in the Rotary highest body of decision is you put your idea through a director or through a committee. The committee can also make a proposition, a suggestion to the board, and the board may approve it or not, depending on budgetary issues, depending on priorities, depending on political lobbying, to be honest, to be candid. But that's the way, that's the right path, the board of directors of Rotary International. And if the theme is environment, never forget that the main actor in developing environmental issues is the board of trustees of the Rotary Foundation. So I think they have even more clout, more power in determining some actions than the very board of directors. So in this case, I would activate contacts on both boards.
Okay, thank you very much. This is, there are lots of things to do, and the things that need to be to the point, and we take your answer as in that way. Thank you. And maybe we can take one final question. The final question is from Nilam Bedi on the Q&A. He's asking, he has two questions. What are the key takeaways from Rotary's enhanced role in climate change? And how will these takeaways be translated into specific actions at the district and club levels? Maybe I can ask Judith to take the first question and Mario take the second question.
I think the takeaway from COP28 is the partnerships that we've developed. For me, it was all about creating contacts with people that knew nothing about Rotary, but there are a lot of people out there that can work with Rotary in partnership. And I think the way forward for creating projects is through partnerships and obviously getting the messages down to clubs and districts. There were three things that impressed me about COP28, which you don't always see in the media reports. Firstly, the amount of research that's going on is huge. The amount of innovation is, we had a whole, well, Isha, you actually led the session on innovation. We had, for example, the chief executive of Siemens speaker, and the innovative work they're doing is quite extraordinary. But the other aspect is the amount of investment. So I think there's a huge opportunity for Rotary to work in partnership with many of these organizations and possibly companies on environmental projects. And I would also add that climate change is not only now about the environment and environmental projects, it's impacting everything that we do. So it actually cuts across all of our 7 areas of focus. And so we should be looking at it with the umbrella of all 7 areas of focus and indeed the 17 SDGs. And I think Rotary can make a huge contribution through working in communities with a club level on all of these humanitarian areas. Maria, would you like to comment?
Yes, would you please repeat the second question?
The second question is, how will these takeaways be translated into specific actions at the district and club levels?
That's the $1 million question. Any decision that's taken by the board is really our biggest challenge, is to communicate, trickle down all through the Rotary pyramid down to the club level. This is our biggest challenge. This applies not only to environment, it applies to anything. It applies to the training, to the learning processes, to our procedures, to new rules, to club formats, to the membership challenges. It's an overall question. I think that we have a lot of improvement to do in communicating from the president or from the board, who I said are 19 people, trickle down to 1.2 million Rotarians. That's our biggest challenge. And I think we have to think outside of the box. We have to think of using maybe all the data information that we have on Rotarians in our database to communicate directly. To be honest, sometimes I think that our communication process doesn't work all the way down to the bottom. It stops in several floors. You know, you get to the board, then you go to the directors, then you have to reach the governors have to reach the club presidents. And we're going from 19 to 530 to 37,000 to 1.2 million. It's a tough challenge, but that's not only exclusive to environmental, environmental publicizing or environmental communication. It applies to everything we do.
Yeah. Okay, maybe final question. That's coming from Dave Alexander, and he's saying the board can make a direction, but it has to be backed by the staff support. That's a comment.
Yeah, that's obvious. Of course, we rely strongly on staff support because they are the ones providing the data. They are the ones amassing the information. They are the ones, our paid staff are the ones who collect all of the information gathering from around the world and submit it in a professional format, because they are professionals. So they have submitted within the purview of a professional presentation for the board's appreciation. Of course, but the final decision is up to the board. It's like in every company, it's in every other organization. The staff provides all the information necessary, collects the data, does the inquiry, do the research, and presents the final results to the board, and the board decides whether we're going left, we're going right, we're moving forward, we're moving backwards. That's, yeah, of course. Staff is a key element in providing the correct information to the board.
Okay, thank you very much. We are almost 10 minutes over our time. So, and I know Judith has to go. And so I would like to stop here. And I would like to thank both Mario and Judith for their insightful and holistic approaches and for the information that I have provided. So thank you very much. And I hope everybody enjoyed the meeting. So I would like to thank our great speakers, our attendees, and all the technical people behind the scenes that are not seen, and everybody who has come. Thank you very much, and see you in future webinars of ESRAG. Thank you.
All right.
Goodbye, yes, sir, Judith.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Let's thank our translators. They made possible the communication as well.
Yes.
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 Thank you. They must be so tired.
Oh, they are doing it well. They are doing it very well. I was listening to Nicole and to Anna, and they were doing such a wonderful job. Top quality level.
They rock.
Thank you, everyone. Awesome.
Thank
Alberto, how do we thank them? I mean, they just, I just, what can we do to let them know?
Oh, recognition. That's what we live on, Rotary. And then we can talk in some other ways.
Well, and Nicole and Anna, are you on LinkedIn? If we
You can turn off your interpreters.
Yes, you can turn off your interpreters. Because if you are, we can all write you a recommendation or let people know how good you were to do this for us.
Thank you.
Would that help with your career?
Oh, definitely. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much. And Alberto, not now because everyone is just exhausted. I know Karen and Joe had to get up really early and Yash are staying up late at night. But you and I need to get together. I need to figure out what magic you did to make that work.
It's pretty easy. It's actually Zoom has improved a great deal in the back end to make all this interaction happening. We even have the option to set up the AI companion that will be generating like summaries in different languages as well. And this is something that is improved by the day. I mean, every new version of Zoom, which happens almost like twice a month, is bringing some additional features that we can use. So our fellows like Anna and Nicole and others, we have, I don't know, Anna, how many do we have? We have about 12 people already that are volunteering as interpreters in several languages. And this is helping communicating as we did in this meeting, you know, because only about a third of the Rotary world speak English. And so we have more people that do not speak English than the ones that can understand English. So let's function as a bridge, as a facilitator. That's pretty much it. And of course, that kind of tools and facilities are available to Rotary leadership. But the ones that need to be communicating from the top, from the bottom up, are the Rotarians. So this is something that is democratizing and making Rotary even more fun, because we are learning from each other as we are attending these interesting meetings. I mean, Judith's presentation was so great, and Maria's comments. And we can invite, I know that Tom Gump, who is aide to Stephanie Ershig, was also here. And, you know, we have been helping Stephanie as well with the communication that wouldn't be available to her until she becomes president. Okay, so this is something that we need to know. The Rotarians need to know what is in the mind of our leaders, regardless of the language they speak.
So I just want to remind you all that Alberto took over host, so he is the host, and our people are still watching us in this webinar as we close this down. It's still recording.
Oh well, let me interrupt the recording then.
We could stop the recording.